speaker than I am. So I just want to thank everybody for coming tonight. You know, it's always means a lot to me when folks want to hear what I have to say, what I kind of have in mind, what I'm trying to do, and why I'm doing it. So that's what I'll say a few words about, who I am, why I'm running, and then what I'd like to do is open it up to your comments, your questions, whatever's on your mind. I mean, I got a lot to learn. I've never been in politics before. I'm an Army guy that grew up in Peru, New York. First Peru, New York, then Army guy. And so I am going through this, learning, changing skill sets as I move out of one distinct profession in life and hopefully now into a second phase of my life to serve again. You know, I've spent my life in uniform. Kathy spent her professional career in uniform. And I would like to serve again at a time when I think our region and our nation needs a different brand of leadership. And we see that a lot now in the political turmoil that this year has turned into. But before I get into all of that, I do want to welcome Billy, all right? We gave him a round of applause before. Let's give him another. I've gotten to know Billy over the last year. You know, he gets it because he's in local government. And I've been over to Franklin County and I watch how this guy runs a meeting with the Franklin County legislature. And so again, that's stuff I need to know. And he's been a great source of counsel to me. And so I'm just delighted you can be here.
Thank you very much.
And I also want to introduce my team. So I've got Drew, who's my campaign manager. And we might even draft him to say a few words in a minute, maybe. Okay. And then I see Meg. All right, Meg LaFave. Everybody knows Meg. And I think Meg is the one who put this together, as she does with most events up here in the North Country. And I just want to thank her once again. And in the back, Buck, who's been working with me for 8 months now. And we have some other folks who are notable. I'd like to welcome Patrick Nelson, who's from way down in Washington County. Been a great, what? Saratoga County. Well, you're almost in Washington County, right? Okay, I get them mixed up, all right? But I'm just really glad to have you up here, Patrick. I want to welcome Renee from Congressman Stefanik's office. She has joined us this evening. It's always great to have, you know, when the opposition is paying attention to you, that must mean you're doing a decent job. So, you know, again, that's part of the mix that I like. And then I want to thank our hosts. We've got Jerry, who, you know, has again been somebody I go to for advice, and then of course Josh and Sarah. And are they around? Okay. All right, so that's all the intros. I grew up in Peru, New York, in the village, right next to the high school. My father was at SUNY Plattsburgh, and he was director of the campus school, if any of you remember that name, until it closed in '79 when SUNY did some big budget cuts. My mom was speech therapist at CVPH for about, I think, 25 years. She also did county health, so she drove the county and did in-home speech therapy, working with folks who somehow needed to relearn, you know, the ability to speak, ability to swallow, that kind of thing. So I grew up in the town of Peru, village of Peru, and then in 1981 I went to West Point. And, you know, it was, for me, a great opportunity. I had gone to school in Plattsburgh at Mount Assumption, MAI, and went to West Point in 1981. I was commissioned as an infantry officer in 1985. And then Kathy and I went to Korea, although we were not an item at the time, all right? That needs to be very, very clear, all right? We were not an item, but we did meet in Korea, you know, sparks flew, whatever happens in young people's lives, and before we knew it, we were married, and we spent 2 years in Korea. So we were on the ramparts of freedom in Korea. We were right on the DMZ, looking across the DMZ into North Korea. North Korea's been in the news a lot lately. And then we left South Korea as a married couple. We went to Germany, and we went to another rampart of freedom in this world. We were during the Cold War, we were on the Czech border. And so for about 10 months before the wall fell, we were there ready to defend if the Czechs and the Soviet tank armies came across that border and tried to come into West Germany. And then peace broke out. All right, one of those crazy things that we never anticipate in life. The Berlin Wall came down. Some of us in this room are old enough to remember that. We saw East Germans, we saw Czechs pouring across the border, looking at what the West was, who we were, how we lived, all the things that we had here that they didn't have in the Soviet bloc. And then very shortly thereafter, what happened to us was totally unexpected. We were a European military force. I just had a long talk about this with somebody today. And we were given the mission to go to Desert Storm. So we picked up from Germany and we moved 2 divisions of tanks and vehicles to Saudi Arabia in a matter of months. And we painted them from green to sand colored. And then we drove north, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, into Iraq. And we went through that 1990, 1991. The rest of our career, we've been teachers at West Point. We both taught there. I've taught graduate school at the Army's graduate school at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. And then, as Kathy said, I was a stay-at-home dad. Probably certainly one of the most rewarding things I've done in my life, and allowed me to get to know my kids in a way which I don't think, in this day and age, I think it's fair to say most dads don't do stay-at-home, aren't stay-at-home dads, and so that was something pretty special for me, and it's what I intended to keep doing because she had a brilliant career going. But in 2004, we began to run out of soldiers in the Army. I was in the reserves. I got called up full-time, and before I knew it, I was sent away off to all around the Midwest, eventually to Iraq, and that's when Kathy decided to get out of the service. So we traded parenting. I did it for 5 years. I had the little problems, okay? I had the dirty diapers. I had, unmanageable loads of laundry. She had the big problems, okay? She had the teenagers, which I think I got the better end of it, all right? I think I did, I'm not sure. But anyhow, I was called up. I served another 9 years, which, was something I never anticipated, to be full-time in the Army for another 9 years. But it was a function of the fact that we went to war in 2001 in Afghanistan, and we went into Iraq in 2003, and the Marine Corps and the Army in particular were stressed in a way which they're still trying to recover from. And we called up just about every able-bodied reservist. And so I finished my career in 2013 after 28 years of service, 14 active duty, 14 reserve duty. And then I looked around and said, okay, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? And my father was ill in the summer of 2014. And I came home to Peru to be with him as he ended up passing away that summer. And during that summer, we had those long talks that I hope everybody has a chance to have with a parent about what am I going to do with the rest of my life, because I just retired from the Army. And he said, you should take everything you've learned in this world. You should take, the fact that you are a vet, that you've been a teacher, that you've served as a diplomat, that you've been a commander in combat. You should take all of that and try to go to the next level and try to represent this region that you're from. And so I thought he was nuts. Okay, I said, certainly don't want to do that. And it took about 6 months for me to realize that this is the way I want to serve next. Okay, I think I have what it takes. I think I have the background, the skills. I know this place that we all live in, and I'd like to take what I have and try to serve again at a different level in a different environment. And I think, so I made that decision last summer, and I declared in the summer for Congress. And since then, look at what has happened. Okay, we've got a political landscape which just has in many ways become something that nobody could anticipate. And we have people participating in politics now who haven't for a very long time. And it's on the Republican side and it's on the Democratic side. But we as a nation, this is perhaps a groundbreaking year in American politics. And so I'm delighted to be part of it. and we'll see where it goes. And you got two guys up here which are going to be watching it very, very carefully. All right? So that's a little bit about who I am, a little bit about why I'm running, and at this point I'd like to open it up to any comments or questions you may have. Yes?
Yeah, you know, with the increasing polarization of the political scenery
Yeah.
around here, I was wondering
Yeah.
how you describe yourself. Are you left-leaning, centrist, far left, whatever?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I don't really like labels, and I think people look at situations and they make decisions based on, the criteria that are presented. But I would, if I have to label myself, I'm a centrist Democrat. There's certain things I'm probably more conservative on, probably the financial side of things. So, and we can talk through those particulars if you want. But what I think, one of the things we've had trouble with in our country politically is people have gotten labeled. You're a Republican, you're a Democrat, you're Tea Party, and then all of a sudden they lose the ability to work with anybody else. And we've seen this breakdown of what should be bipartisan efforts to deal with issues that we face as a nation and move us forward. And I think our Congress has not done that well. And I'm a guy who, in the Army, it doesn't matter what political stripe you are. It only matters if you deliver results. Can you train soldiers? Can you lead soldiers? Can you accomplish a mission? Can you take care of the people you're responsible for? That's what you're judged on. And so that's how I'm used to thinking, and that's how I'm used to operating. But good question. Yes.
And a follow-up to his question,
Yeah.
who do you support in the Democratic primary for president?
Oh, here we go. So, I guess I'm going to say what I hear a lot of other people saying, which is, I'm going to support whoever comes out of this process for, this primary process, and whoever, comes to the top of that deliberate, careful process that we're in right now. My sense is that's going to be Hillary Clinton. And so I will be supporting Hillary Clinton is my guess. But what I see in the presence of Bernie Sanders in this race is a whole lot of people are involved in politics who've never been involved before. We have the so-called millennial generation, which was our least political group within our population, and they have suddenly, many of them, become very excited about this, and they're registering and they're raising their voice, and let's hope they vote, because we've had this downward trend in voter participation, and that whenever that happens in a democracy, that's a very bad trend. We need to reverse that. We need to get people to realize they have a vote and to get out there and exercise it. So. Maybe we should serve more